I'm not my father's son. I'm not the image of what he dreamed of, with the strength of Sparta and the patience of Job.
Hi guys, and welcome to episode 30. Yes, you heard me, we're at episode 30 already. Where has the time gone, honestly? But we're here, and today we've got a special one today. We're going to the factory to get some boots, I think, and some other musicals as well. Because on the episode today we've got Kayi Ushe, who you'll know from playing Lola in the Kinky Boots tour, Marvin Gaye in Motown in the West End, Mutumbo in Book of Mormon in the West End, I think I pronounced that right, and he was also Swing and Gary Coleman understudy in Avenue Q. So let's welcome Kayi.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. It's great to have you. It's great to finally get to know you a bit better, and get to put the fans' questions to you, because the majority of the questions we hold no responsibility over, because the fans have given you, either the fans of the shows that you've been in or fans of yours. And we do have some fans of yours, I'm sure, as well as the shows, because you've been in some, just the list I read off there, you've been in some big shows, both touring and West End.
They've been and there was so much fun. Like I count myself so lucky to be able to do what I do for a living. Yeah.
It's a great job acting. We'll say no more because the video's going to be up for a long while, so we'll not get into that conversation. But anyway, the first question all our fans will know, because we've asked the same question for the last 30 episodes, is what got you into performing?
Oh wow. I think when I was younger, I loved Robin Williams. There we go. I loved Robin Williams. One of my favorite films growing up was Mrs. Doubtfire, and all of the voices that he does in that film, and all of the antics he gets up to, I was just like, how is one man able to capable of doing so much and is so talented, etc. And so I started practicing voices when I was maybe I can't remember when it came out, but it was before I was even 10, I'm sure. Practicing voices, imitating different things. And yeah, I mean, I always had an affinity for drama, but never thought that I would ever actually go into it. I never thought I would do theatre or musical theatre. Actually, growing up, I wanted to be an artist and a cartoonist because I loved sketching. And it was only until I got to secondary school and they were like, so what do you want to do for GCSEs? And I was like, I want to do art and IT, because I was like, animation, art, IT, done. And they were like, the IT course is full. I was like, oh, cool. So they said, well, we're going to put you on the drama, no, not on the drama course, on the history course. And I was like, I don't know. And my head of year was like, okay, well, a couple of years ago we did Carmen. When I was in year 9, and she was like, you did really well in that. Do you want to consider drama? And I was like, I mean, I guess. So then, from then on, it was just like, oh, wow, yeah, this is exactly, I can't imagine being anywhere else or doing anything else. I loved it, and I love it so much. So yeah, that was pretty much my, what caused me to pursue it, yeah.
It's a good year to have when you were younger. Robin Williams was a fantastic actor.
So fantastic. The day he passed, it was always a dream of mine to be to either meet him or perform with him. And I hold on to the memory of Mrs. Doubtfire, of Aladdin, all of those iconic roles that he did and did so well, and his stand-up. Anyway, I love it. Love it.
Yes. But this is about you, not about Robin Williams. As much as he's a great guy and he's fantastic, it's about you. So what was your first production?
My first production after graduating from Brunel University was Fame. I toured Italy doing Fame the musical, all up and down the country. It was incredible, insane and incredible. The amount of, so I am not typically a dancer. A lot of friends with me be like, you're not a dancer. But they were like, we're going to do ballet, we're going to do jazz, we're going to do tap, and you're going to sing all these numbers, etc. And it was everything I'd always wanted to do. I think at uni as well, we did a few productions at uni, but obviously nothing to the extent of a professional gig, and not a professional gig in a different country. And yeah, Fame was incredible. Like the atmosphere and the reverence and the respect of the Italian public for musical theatre and theatre in general was just like, I got hit, like, you know, it felt like being hit by a train of like enthusiasm every time I left stage door. It was so wonderful, and that was my first gig. Like, yeah, I was really blessed.
Wow. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a massive gig for somebody that you said they're not a dancer.
Oh yeah.
Fame's quite a dancey show.
It's yeah, my track was like, you know, 90% dance. And I remember doing the auditions and them being like, again, having not trained in ballet, they were like, you know, do all of these moves. And I was like, you are speaking to me in French and I don't really understand, but I, you know, so I need you to just break it down. I was like, show me the feet, show me the arms. And they did. And I was like, oh, cool, fantastic. This is great. And yeah, I mean, I think because I wasn't used to it, the one thing that, you know, you build up, I guess, in drama school, because I didn't go to drama school, is you build up, you know, obviously all of your dance prongs as well as your stamina. And I did not know what was about to hit me. Luckily, I had, like, you know, the energy of the youth, the energy of my youth. But yeah, as soon as like we finished rehearsals, I was like, oh my gosh, I've never felt more in shape than I have ever been in my entire life from doing those routines. Yeah, it was such a good gig. And obviously I learned Italian because we were like immersed in the culture. I do miss it. First thing in the morning, having an espresso, and then, you know, for lunch having a true authentic like Italian fire oven baked pizza. Oh, that was great. It was so good.
I can imagine, yes. I've never been to Italy. That's
Have you
definitely on my
not?
bucket list. No, I've never. It's one of the European cities European countries, sorry, that I've never been to.
Yeah, no, I definitely recommend it. It's one of my favorites.
Oh, it's definitely on my bucket list, without a doubt. As soon as lockdown's over, we'll get that sorted, without a doubt. That and Canada, the other two places.
Yes.
Again, we're digressing. We like to digress here. We like to digress. So if that's the case, then not only are you a UK star, you're a worldwide star. If you performed in other countries.
I wish. If I could ever get the title of worldwide star, that would be, I'd be like, Mom, I did it.
You did it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's great to know that you've done Italy and other countries. That and Fame, what a fantastic performance. Anyway, moving on, we will hold no responsibility for the next set of questions. These are all from fans, as we said. The first question is a bit of a joke question, really. Rebecca just wants to know, do you still have maggots?
No, I do. You know what's funny? That's the only role that I did not play in the show that I could have. So I was on Mormon for 4 years, and I played Matumbo, I played Gali, I played Mafala, I played the General, I played oh god, who's there's one who's just escaping me. But the only one I didn't play was the Doctor. And I remember remarking to our director, I was like, if I could just play the Doctor before I leave, like I'd have a full set. Because I just wanted to end the show. I still have maggots in my scrotum. Oh my God. Yeah. No. So no, the answer is no. I do not have.
You don't have maggots.
Yeah, I do not have
That's
maggots. And I didn't check with you if it was okay to say that word. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. Done now. Done now. It's not bad. We've had worse. Don't put it that way. So Lydia moves on to this. Back to this. We'll come back to a bit more to Book of Mormon later. I just had to get a wee laugh in to start with. There's some slightly more serious questions about Mormon later. But Lydia wants to know some things about kinky boots, and she wants to know, what was it like learning to walk in high heels?
Oh my God, the most painful experience. So really early on, Karen, who was our wardrobe supervisor, she said to me, you're going to want to wear those like every single day. Karen is like one of the most straight talking people I've ever met. She's Glaswegian and just is like exactly, and is just like, she's like straight to the point. She was like, put those on, get walking around, get used to it during the rehearsal process. And I remember saying to Darren Carnell, who's an absolute saint, he was like, so we're going to learn he was our choreographer, by the way. As he was like, we're going to learn all of the choreography today. Like I learned most of the choreography of the show in a session with Darren that lasted quite a long time. And I said to him, which shoes are the most painful shoes? And he was like, the Sex in the Heel shoes, the blue ones with the crazy, crazy long stiletto. And that they are the shoes with the highest incline. So I put those shoes on and learnt Land of Lola in those shoes. I learned Sex in the Heel in those shoes. Not Say Yeah, obviously, because that's in trainers. I learned What a Woman Wants in those shoes, the finale in those shoes. And by the end of the day, when I went to put my foot on the ground out of the boots, I felt the muscles in my calf sort of separate really, really slowly, because they'd gotten to such a level of tension that they were just like, okay, well, we'll be a unit. But as soon as you tried to do anything, I had to push my foot down so that my heel would touch the ground. And then the next day was worse, because then I had to go back into the heels, and I was like, oh gosh, this is a lot, and this is going to be every single day for the rest of this tour. And I remember thinking at the time, like, drag queens, women, anybody who chooses to wear heels, my hat goes off to you, because I remember thinking, I cannot wait to never have to wear heels again. But also, I guess the amazing thing and the magical thing about them is that when you're in those heels, they elevate you and they make it so that you are constantly on your front foot. So no matter what happens, you can only keep plowing forward. So they really gave me a sense of strength, and overcoming all of that pain to get to that point was so worth it. I mean, after a while, they then started to feel like trainers and kind of more comfortable than like walking in brogues. It was weird.
That's scary.
Yeah. I was like, I could get used to this. No. It hurts too much.
Yeah, then it'll hurt again, and you think, no, let's take them off.
Yeah.
Tom wants to know, have you ever done drag outside of the show?
No, never. Apart from, I think, actually, so when I was on Wonderland, we did a Pride warm-up, and that was my first experience. Bree Smith, who was one of the girls in the ensemble and a really close friend of mine, she was like, it's Pride warm-up. I have this shirt that you can wear and all of this makeup. So she did all the makeup on me, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was my first time wearing women's makeup. But I remember feeling like, okay, this is very, very different to obviously my day-to-day. I was like, this is again fabulous. It's kind of like, the way I started to feel about it, especially on Kinky Boots, was that it kind of feels like war paint. Like you're getting ready to I don't know, it gives you this whole different level of confidence in this persona. But outside of Kinky Boots, that was probably the only time. Yeah. I did get asked that a few times at Stage Door, and a lot of people couldn't believe that I wasn't a drag queen in real life. And I was like, I mean, it's a lot of work. Like the amount of makeup, the corsets, the artistry that goes into it, and the pain that goes into it. Again, whoever chooses to do that and does that on a regular basis, my hat off to them. My mind is blown. I had a team of people who painted my face for me. I had a team of people who helped to put me into the corsets and put me into the shoes. So yeah.
I can imagine, yes. You just have to watch RuPaul's Drag Race and to see just how much work goes in, you know what I mean? Exactly. And they only show you bits of it. They don't even show you the full getting ready time, and it's like, wow, watching them put makeup on, I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah.
I've done it once for my 18th birthday.
My God.
And again, I was the same as you. I had people, like, I had friends that were doing it for me. I didn't do it myself.
I'm sure there must be pictures online somewhere, right?
Oh, yes, there is.
Fantastic.
It was Edna Turnblad. It was a musical themed birthday party.
Amazing.
So Kinky Boots wasn't out at that point because I'm too old. So it was Edna that I had to go on for drag. She was the drag of the time. I don't know if I'm saying Kinky Boots wasn't out. How long has Kinky Boots been out? No.
Well, in the UK, I think it was 2015. 2016 that it came over, but I don't know when it started on Broadway. I don't know that.
So I wouldn't have been then, because it was 2009, my 18th. So yeah, it wouldn't have been. It might have been in Broadway, but it wouldn't have been over here, certainly.
Yeah.
Anyway, you obviously you have a partner, don't you? You have a girlfriend or wife. That doesn't matter. Girlfriend.
Yeah.
That's completely relevant. All Claire wants to know is, what did your partner say the first time she saw you in drag?
So, oh gosh, how can I even put this? So my partner is Rose Connolly, and she was the head of wardrobe on Kinky Boots in the West End.
All right.
And
okay.
so when it came to setting up the tour, she actually helped to make a lot of the put together a lot of the costumes for the tour. So one day I came home and I was in the middle of, costume fittings at the theatre, and she'd been tasked with making my bra for Land of Lola. And I came into the house and she was like, okay, we have two choices. We can either schedule an actual time slot for you to come to the theatre where I can put the bra on you and we can all work it out, or I can just do it in the living room. And I was like, let's just do this in the living room. So there was a moment before the tour happened where Rose put me in a bra for the first time, and then eventually sent me off on my merry way to become the lovely Lola. But the first time she saw me in drag, what was her reaction? Her reaction was that it didn't feel alien or strange. Like, it didn't feel like, it didn't jar her at all. She was just kind of like, she said to me, you really, really suit the role. And I was like, wait, what does that mean? And she was like, no, it doesn't feel at odds with what I'm like as a person. Sassy,
Yeah, so you fit into Lola quite well then, is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
You are the real life Lola. Last time. Eddie wants to know, that's a good story actually, that she helped make. I didn't realise that's who it was, so that's quite good to know.
Yeah.
That helped you put you into a bra for the first time. Not many boyfriends can say that about their girlfriends, to be honest. Not many boyfriends want to say that about their girlfriends. Never mind, can say it.
I think just before we move on, when I had the audition, I did the first round audition, and then got through to the second round. And I said to Rose, who was working as head of wardrobe at the time, I was like, I've never worn a pair of heels in my life before, well, ever. And so I was like, I need to know that I can actually walk in heels before, this process goes any further. So I did go into the theater, and she showed me like all of the heels that they had as sort of either backup heels or heels that they bought for the show that weren't in use, because they didn't fit or etc. And so she asked the supervisor, Karen, if I could borrow a pair of heels just to see what that felt like. And I remember putting them on and being like, oh, this again does not feel strange, and it doesn't hurt. Of course, I didn't spend 15 months in them, but I remember fondly, well, I remember being at home in North London washing my dishes in a pair of knee-high white leather 5-inch wedge heels, just being like, okay, this feels kind of
natural,
normal. Yeah, exactly.
You do? Yeah, typical Saturday night, the sounds of it.
Exactly.
Do you still have the boots? Do you get to keep the boots? Your ones?
Gosh, I don't actually know if I'm allowed to answer that, but yes, I have my specific boots.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
It's always a good souvenir. Claire wants, we've done Claire, sorry. Eddie wants to know, what's your favourite song in Kinky Boots?
This one's a tough one because there are Stephen Remus and Cyndi Lauper put together an incredible score, and each song is so incredibly unique that it's hard to compare them. So for me, singing I'm Not My Father's Son was, and I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it. Like, it was just such a beautiful moment, and like gospel chords sort of run through that number, that again just catch me in all of my feels. But on the flip-flop of that, Sex is in the Heel is such a it's just like upbeat and funky and such an incredible like storytelling number. that it just gets everybody like in the mood. Like it's incredible. That's incredible as well. So I would say like Hold Me in Your Heart is anthemic. There are so many, and I think I would probably have to settle on Hold Me in Your Heart if I had to choose, because of how chock full of emotion it was. Like to sing it and to act it's probably the number that gave me the most, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, completely. Mine's got to be Not My Father's Son. Like, doesn't matter who sings that. That gets me going. All every like. It has to be good, obviously. I'm not saying like I wouldn't sing it and it wouldn't get me going, but like me singing any song would be terrible, as I've already covered before the talk. But yeah, definitely it gets me no matter, as I say, no matter who sings it, whoever's version.
Yeah.
Definitely. But moving on, we'll change the background.
Oh, hello.
That was not great because I sat there and you can't see it. But hey ho, we'll move it slightly. Alistair says he saw you in Book of Mormon, not in Motown.
Yeah.
And he's always wanted to know, what was it like bringing a Legends songs to life?
Oh,
so obviously you played Marvin Gaye.
Yeah, that's a great question. At first it was that there was a lot of pressure because of how much of a legend Marvin Gaye is. Like I listened to his music, and there are some songs as well that I didn't even realize was his music. I didn't realize that, you know, he played drums on certain tracks and had so many strings to his bow. So I was like, this absolute icon, I'm having to step into the shoes of and fulfill playing a real person on stage, not a character, but a real person. And then, talk less of the fact that I was also stepping into the shoes of Safiso, who played the role just before me and played it brilliantly. It was incredible in terms of like character work and having to really research, what kind of a man he was and what kind of like the man behind the music, because so often I'm sure I don't know if you do have this notion, but like when I watch performers perform and enjoy performers' music, I'm like, that's a great tune, but there is a whole life behind, heard it through the grapevine. What was the socio-political context surrounding that number? What's going on? What's the social political context behind all of that? So yeah, it was an incredible learning curve for me to have to step up and play somebody who was not only a legend and an icon and an incredible musician, but a real person who had real life circumstances, real troubles, real peaks, real troughs, and learning about all of that. It was an incredible learning experience, but also so much fun to sing those numbers and to enjoy those numbers and to hear how many lives those numbers have touched. Like, I don't know if you remember from Motown, you get that sort of refrain of dun, 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 as like a transition for certain scenes. So it always gives that promise of the number coming up, and then the number lands. And to say that I didn't have to do much is probably actually true, but you walk on that stage and you start with that, "Ooh, I met you," and everyone just goes, "Ah," it's great. I'm so thankful to him and to his legacy for being able to do that and get that feeling on stage.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic musical, absolutely fantastic. Blew me away the first time, genuinely, that I saw it. And I was shocked, as I have in a few musicals, especially when musicals are based on real people and real songs. And I don't mean every musical is based on real songs, but I mean songs that were in the charts. Like Kinky Boots is completely different because it's songs that were written for the musical, whereas this was all songs. Apart from one, I think there was one written for the musical, wasn't there?
I think it's Can I Close the Door?
That's it.
The one that Berry Gordy sings.
Yeah, that was written for the show, but apart from that, everything else was originally in the charts at some point. Whether it be the US charts or the UK charts or both. But they have been in. So it was amazing how many were like, "Oh, so that's Motown. Oh, so that's Motown." So it was quite funny how to see all of that and think, "Oh, all right, okay." So it was great, and then obviously it's a much needed story. Even to this day, it's very much needed. I think because obviously it's the struggles of the Motown artists, the black artists.
Yeah.
There was a lot more to it than that, but there was that as well.
Yeah, that was definitely that element of it, and it's the story is especially surrounding Marvin Gaye, because Marvin Gaye, he was told, and a lot of musicians get told this: do not make things political, do not make things political. But as we're definitely seeing and learning right now, if you have a platform to affect genuine and lasting change, use it, please use it, because sometimes until things literally until somebody's screaming about it from a place where a lot of people will listen, a lot of the times nothing gets done. So yeah, I'm so, like, again, being able to play a musician but also an activist, it was incredible.
Definitely, and I definitely agree. Any platform at all, and use it definitely, especially if it's going to get one that's going to bring change.
Yeah.
Which is very much needed. But anyway, Elizabeth says, has any of the singers from Motown, so from the actual singers, ever seen you in the show?
I don't think so. I think because I came in halfway through the second year or is either the second or third year of Motown on the West End, and I think they, like, the ones who did came quite early on in the show. We had a few visitors backstage, but yeah, I can only imagine what that must have felt like, because I think I can't remember who it was. Somebody from the Motown legacy came and saw the show quite early on. Well, loads of people did, and I can't imagine being there and being like, I'm singing your music, because obviously so many of them are alive and so many of them are still making music, and seeing themselves portrayed on stage, like, yeah, it's incredible. It's, again, like, it's the legacy of Motown. It's how big Motown music is, that you are still an active member of the, an active participant in making music across the world, and there are people on stage bringing your music to the masses still. It blows my mind.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Love or hate Motown, it's the one of the record labels that everybody knows at least one song in it.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Whatever your opinion, I love Motown, like genuinely love Motown music. But whatever your opinion of the songs are, you will know at least one of the songs. Like, at least one. Jackson 5 were part of Motown, obviously Marvin Gaye was part of Motown, Diana Ross, you name it.
Well, this is the thing. So when I left the show, and actually while I was still on the show, every time I would go to a bar, I'd be like, that's a song from the show. Oh wait, no, it's not a song from the show. It's just because it's Motown, and Motown is everywhere. Like, the music is so popular, and everybody knows, even if because a lot of people have this misconception that Motown is a genre of music rather than a record label, and that's how big Motown is, that some people see it as a genre. But yeah, a lot of people don't realize the songs that they're listening to and have listened to their entire life have come from Motown.
No, and whether it's Motown writers or whether it's the Motown singer, or that it comes from Motown in some respect, definitely. But I can understand why people would think it's a genre rather than, because it's the way we've grown up. I think, like, categories and quiz shows, you've got a Motown category, and so people think it's a genre rather than a record label. And so when people put it in quizzes, they'll put a Motown round, and it's like, well, no, not really, because it's not just a category. Anyway, Reese asks, apart from Marvin Gaye songs, what's your favourite song in Motown the musical?
Good Lord. I would say, Can I Close the Door? So a lot of people might not know that I was originally being seen for Berry Gordy when I came into the show, and I was given that song to learn, and it's a gargantuan sing. And Cedric performed it. Cedric Neal, who played Berry Gordy while I was still on the show, he performed it so beautifully, day in and day out, and sometimes twice a day, obviously, with matinees. It's just so moving. It's such a powerful song that I think anybody could relate to. Like, yeah, I would say that obviously that song was written for the show. That song's not a it is a Motown song, but it's not the Motown songs that everybody knows. There are obviously other Marvin Gaye tunes that aren't in the show that I absolutely adore. Oh, it's so tough. Stevie Wonder is actually one of the people that made me want to sing, because his music is so incredible. But again, like his bangers, like, you know, Lately, Knocks Me Off My Feet, all of those, they're not in the show, but I love all of those. The list basically goes on. Like, yeah, just love Motown.
List is massive. Motown
Yeah.
list is massive. So Jane kind of touches more on Motown, the record label, rather than musicals, sorry. And she wants to know, is what's your favourite singer from the Motown record? Do you have a
Stevie Wonder?
Stevie Wonder?
Yeah, like
I thought that was coming when you said it earlier. I thought
he did like for my, oh god, I can't remember which birthday it was, and actually I'll show my age if I do say, but my partner took me to go and see Stevie Wonder when he came over to the UK to do the concert in Hyde Park. So we went to go and see that for my birthday, and I have so much respect for the man. Like the fact that he can still sing so incredibly at his age. He's probably had one of the longest lasting careers of anybody I can call to mind, and he's just a musical genius. You watch videos of him from when he first sort of started out to videos of him now, and there's nary a difference. Like he's just
he looks a bit older. That's a bit different.
Exactly.
He looks a bit older.
He looks like he's aged a couple of years. Like that's.
I know a couple. Let's be honest. I know there's plenty of artists of his generation that you think maybe it's time to retire. Like, no, you are fantastic in your heyday, but now it's. And I could name probably 5 or 6 without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
But Stevie Wonder's certainly not on that list. Like, he still knocks out the park every time he performs.
The day we saw him performing, he said to the audience, I'm not feeling well, and I nearly didn't come today. Like, you nearly didn't have me because I'm not feeling well. But here's a couple of songs, and then just went like, on the days where I don't feel well.
I'm not doing that.
Correct. Exactly.
You're not doing that.
Yeah. So I was just, again, blown away. I was like, the work ethic and the just knowing all your instruments and knowing your own instrument so well that you know exactly how to manipulate it, even if you're feeling ill. I was just like, I'm still learning from you to this day. But yeah, he's incredible.
No, definitely. So Lydia moves on slightly, and she asks, if you had to give your 16-year-old self one piece of advice based on theatre-wise, what would it be?
To trust myself more. To trust, so what I mean, God, when I was that age, or when I was younger, I would always think, what are they looking for, rather than what am I bringing? Do you know what I mean?
Makes sense. Yeah.
And so, like, that, I didn't have the level of trust or self-confidence, and not in an arrogant way at all. In fact, if 16-year-old me was arrogant, I'd be like, let's talk. But in a really, like, in a sort of what's the word, like a self-respect, self-esteem, self-love kind of way, going, it's in Kinky Boots, isn't it? Like, be yourself, everybody else is taken. It's Oscar Wilde. It's so important for people to have their own, to realize that what it is about what makes them who they are is what makes them unique, and to use that unique standpoint to try and muck their way through this thing called life. Like, that would be my advice.
Fantastic advice, I've got to say. So Connor wants to know, have you any theatre regrets? Is there anything that you regret?
Okay, so as a personal rule to myself, I don't tend to regret things, because everything in life leads you to where you are, right? So if I look back and I go, oh man, I wish I'd done that, that's a slow and steady spiral to wishing I was in a different place in my life. But I'm here, and I'm now, and I'm I mean, COVID, government, I'm not happy, but I'm happy within myself. And so, but if I was to think back on a moment that I wish I could take back, it would probably be on Book of Mormon, where we were doing the pageant. Oh, this is so bad. We were doing the pageant, and we were doing the pageant, and I got distracted for like literally a split second in the middle of this number where we're dancing around with golden plates and like all the props under the sun. And I ended up tripping over and flipping one of the boxes that was stage right, which I don't know how I managed that. They're very heavy, but I stepped on the wrong side of it. It flipped over, ended up somewhere where it shouldn't have been, didn't hit anyone. And then while we were doing the routine where we have to do this with our hands, and in this hand is the golden plate, everybody else was like a count ahead of me because I'd fallen over. So then I swished my arm back and it collided with my friend Sharon Wattis. It collided with her hand. And if there was ever a moment I wish I could have taken back, it was that, because it like she had to stand at the back because her hand started like it had like crossed the back of her hand and she'd started bleeding, and I was like, oh, this is terrible, this is so terrible. But again, you have to go, what's the positive and what's the learning experience here, and that is don't get distracted, Kai. Okay.
That's good advice.
Correct.
It could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse.
Yes, it could have been a lot worse.
So moving on from regrets, Oliver asks, have you any career highlights? What's your career highlight so far?
So a really early career highlight was on Fame. I was in the dressing room after a show, and we could hear that the entire audience was like the entire audience. This is something that has not happened to me before or since. The entire audience was waiting outside the theater for us to come out of stage door, but we decided to take our lunch indoors. So my friend went to the window because it was very warm, and he opened the window, and as he opened the window, literally it was like, and he closed it again because the audience could see our dressing room. And I was like, what is happening? He was like, they're all out there. I thought like, I don't know, there were waves crashing on the town or something. I didn't think it was gonna be that. So then we went to the window and opened it again and just started like talking to the guys down at stage door, and people, just the whole audience like sort of screaming back up at us, and we were like, okay, but now we need to take a break. But it was just massive. Like I've not had an experience like that in such a long time. I felt like Beyonce, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm trying to think, what was did you ask a two-part question, or was that just one part?
No, it was just one. It was just what your career highlights are so far.
Yeah, I'd say that was definitely one. Going to the Olivier's, that was also that's been a massive career highlight. And we took, obviously when Mormon got nominated for many Olivier's, we took Mormon to the Olivier's and performing. We performed, I believe, I say we, Gavin Creel performed, I believe, and I had to come on and I had, my line, General, we have an intruder, he just went right into camp. And I remember like feeling like I had jelly legs, right? Because I was like, oh my God, it's an audience full of people who do this for a living. Like, and so the pressure in my head started going around in circles. And then I was like, it's just a moment, and you do this moment every single day. And then I looked up at the monitor that was showing everybody front of like in the auditorium, and the first person to come up was Dame Judi Dench, and all of a sudden I got jelly legs again, and I was like, oh my God, Dame Judi Dench is watching me. And then I proceeded to run out on stage, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm performing at the Olivier's. It was such an, even though it was only a small part, it was such an honor to do that. Yeah, I'd say, there's so many. Many. Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be loads, yeah. But the Olivier's definitely, I can imagine that being a massive highlight for anyone. For anyone. So Ellie moves on. So we'll change the background. We're moving on to another show.
Oh.
Hello.
Here we go.
Sorry, I had to there. Ellie asks, what's your favourite song from Book of Mormon?
Okay, my favourite song from Book of Mormon. what came to my head straight away was You and Me, but mostly me, because of Cunningham. The character of Cunningham is so brilliantly put together, and if there was a role that I could ever like, I would love to play Cunningham. That's all I could say. But I would say in terms of Hasadiga, before I started the show, when I was listening to that song I think it was in a gym in, oh God, where was it? In Cardiff. I listened to that song for the first time in a gym in Cardiff, and I could not do any exercise because my sides were splitting. I was sweating from laughing. I was like, what are they saying? What is happening? How can you get away with this? And then obviously, like, because I come from quite a Catholic background, I was like, oh my good Lord. And then we started the show and I learned about like I learned so much to do with to do with the Africans in the show and why they say the things that they say in the show, to do with the Mormons and what motivates them, and how brilliant the writing was, because it comes from a place of like making all of these forces clash together and then what would happen. But yeah, Hasadiga for me, I was just like, it just ramps up and up and up with intensity, like a lot of the songs in that musical do actually. They just get like faster and funnier and more cardiovascular, and yeah. Hassa.
It's one of the only musicals that you walk out as an audience member. You walk out and you're physically tired, like because you've laughed that much, and and it's a genuine smile. You can't help but just grin from ear to ear as you walk out.
Yeah.
You're singing the songs, but as soon as you walk out, you go, maybe I shouldn't be singing them outside. You're like,
well, this is the thing. So my first couple of years on the show, I didn't understudy anyone. But then my third year, I understudied the General and Mafala, and then my fourth year, I also understudied the General and Mafala. But in my second year, I auditioned to understudy, and I remember walking down the street and rehearsing the General's lines on the way to the audition. And I was like, absentmindedly, as you do, like if the line was, I really want to have I really want to have a cup of coffee, be like, I really want to have a cup of coffee. That's not it. I really want to have a cup of coffee, or whatever. And I was walking down the street saying, I'm not going to say what the general speech is. But I was correct. I was walking down the street saying what the general speech is, and I got this look from this man crossing the street, like, what are you saying? And at that point you go, oh my God, outside of a context, these are like, I was like, we need context. I'm so sorry, context is important. But the moment was gone. Yeah.
I can imagine that. Yeah, definitely can imagine that. Yeah, definitely. So Georgie asks, what is it like to be part of one of the most controversial musicals in history? Because Book of Mormon definitely is very controversial.
It is. I'd say it can be if you. A lot of people have taken it completely at face value. And I remember having conversations when I was auditioning for the job with people who would say, do not take the job, or do not even audition. I'm not going to, and so you shouldn't. And we had a lot of conversations about the message in the show, what's being ridiculed, who's being mocked. But a friend of mine who was my director on Avenue Q, Evan Ensign, sorry, he was, I think he was a stage manager during the workshops of Book of Mormon, while it was being workshopped in the States. And he was telling me stories about he basically walked me through a lot of the script and a lot of the reasons why taking it at face value can be problematic, or lifting sections of it and going, that's offended me, at face value is problematic. Like, it's called the Book of Mormon, and it's the Mormon faith hasn't petitioned to have it taken down. In fact, we had people, when we were working on the show, we had Mormons coming to the front of house and sort of standing opposite from front of house and talking to people about the Mormon religion, because there's nothing in the show that, in terms of what the Mormons believe, there's nothing in the show that is inaccurate in terms of what Mormons believe. But the situation and the events that unfold, it's all told so brilliantly nuanced that, well, basically, so that, you know, so that it tells a story of love, and a story of heart, and a story of, like, you know, the most misled some of the most misled characters in the story are the most self-entitled. And, like, you know, you look at Price and he goes, I'm a Mormon, I'm going to go on a mission, I'm going to go to Orlando, Florida, because it's my favorite place in the world. And you're like, what, you know, even thinking about going to help people, he's still talking about going somewhere that's going to benefit him. So I'm like, think about, basically, it really makes people think, and using comedy, it highlights a lot of issues that otherwise a lot of people aren't willing to talk about. And so, actually, like, talking about genital mutilation, and talking, like, these are things that do happen across the world. And it was or rather, sorry, no, it was researched to within an inch of its life. It was workshopped to within an inch of its life. And that's how you've ended up with this comical, yes, controversial, but brilliant masterpiece of musical theatre, in my opinion.
Oh, definitely, it's fantastic. I remember actually one of the times going to see it, because obviously I do the lottery because I'm a cheapskate. So I do the lottery every time that I come and see it, and it's now the only way you can get tickets in advance, not in advance, but without paying for them in advance. I mean, like, without buying them in advance. So anytime I've done it, it's been front row. And one of the times I did it, the guy sitting next to me was actually a Mormon.
Oh, wow.
He was, and I'm like, have you seen this? Do you know what this is about? Like, you know, this is not a nice, cozy, loving musical about Mormons. He went, oh, I know. He says, I've never seen it, but I know what it's about. I'm like, that's fine, that's okay. And he was laughing just as much as us, so that was fine.
Yeah,
that's one of the memories I'll ever take away from it, is the fact that he found it just as funny as we did, and laughed at everything. So that was, I thought, oh, well, if he can find it funny, then I can laugh.
I mean, we did have, like, while I was there, we did have quite a lot of, well, not quite a lot makes it sound like by a percentage, it was like, you know, 45%, very, very small percentage of walkouts, but there were walkouts during the show where people would, I don't know, they sort of decided after, you know, a whole act and a half that they were offended, and so they would walk out just before the end. And I'm like, it's one of those things that you can't, it's sort of like walking out on a comedian in the middle of a joke. So you've got, like, the setup, the build up, and then the punchline. And so if you choose to walk out here, well, then you'll never know what, like, all of this was about, if you've not got it up to that point, or if you've not trusted, you know, you're watching a story being told. And so we did have, there was one guy who walked to the front of the balcony, and threw his ticket over the balcony into the stalls, where, you know, it sort of sifted its way down, and then he walked out. And we were at that point, we were in the middle of the pageant, so we were, you know, yeah. Oh, okay. And afterwards, we found out from front of house that he'd walked out, he'd thrown his ticket over and he'd walked out, but he didn't have his ticket and he forgot his jacket. So then when he was trying to come back in, because he'd thrown his ticket into the stalls, he was like, I left my jacket inside. And they were like, well, where's your proof? Like, where you don't have a ticket, where were you? So we were like, maybe don't, you know, litter in an auditorium to show your protestation for a show. But yeah, just to say that it does affect people in different ways, and different people have different sensibilities. Yeah,
100%, definitely.
Yeah.
So Alex asks, if it's able to be said, and this is me that's adding that bit, what is your best line in the show? What's your favourite line in the show? Not your best, favourite.
From the Book of Mormon.
Yes. If it can be said.
If it can be said, because there are so many that really can't be said. This is a family-friendly show, guys. Okay.
Yes, family-friendly show.
Oh gosh. Okay, so I can't say what it is, but it is one of Mutombo's lines during Making Things Up Again, because the Cunningham is sort of trying to teach all of the Africans how to be like, well, basically he's appropriated the Book of Mormon, and he's now spliced it together with all of his geeky interests, and he's trying to make it relevant for the Ugandans where they are. And Mutombo has had enough, and he goes, you know, I'm not doing this. I'm going to go and do the thing that I know will cure my medical situation. And Cunningham is
very well put.
Thank you. And Cunningham is like, oh my good Lord, no. And then the trade-off that they have during that was one of my, when I played Mutombo, that was one of my favorite moments of the show, because it was like, you know, he needs to bring, as an actor, he needs to bring me back with what he says, and I need to tell him absolutely not. And yeah, it was really, that's fun. That was fun.
I can imagine, yes. It's not a sentence you would say normally, just walking down the street.
No, exactly.
That one would be even with context, can be taken completely out of context. It's a very interesting saying, yes. If you've seen the musical, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. If you haven't, and you're over the age of 16, 17, go and see it. If you're under the age of 16, 17, I do not recommend it.
Well, this is the other thing. We did have people in the front row sometimes who were definitely not over the age of 16, 17. And there is a warning on basically I think it's on every page of the booking process. We were like, okay, there is like, I'm now going to sing Hasadiga in front of this 8-year-old. Well, that's happening. Yeah, what can you do?
There's nothing you can do. Like, they've been warned. That's why parents, if they complain, there's nothing they can do, because there's warnings everywhere that it's not child friendly in the slightest, from almost the very first sentence. Well, not quite the first sentence, but almost, because obviously the first song's hello and it's not that bad. It's about one of the only ones a radio station can play.
Yes.
I think there's only about 2 songs that a radio station, 2 or 3 maybe.
Yeah, I think it's I Believe and
You and Me, but mostly Me. That you can play that and Hello. They're about the only 3 that can be played on radio before the watershed, certainly.
Yeah.
Magic the Musicals definitely has a tough challenge that when they get asked to play something and they're like, no, can't do that.
We'll just play Spooky Moment Hell. Oh, no, can't do that.
No, can't do that. No. Play has to do. Oh, can't do that one. Certainly not. Definitely. Yeah. So, right, that's what it was. I think we've kind of covered it, but I think she's talking more at stage door with this question. But Olivia says, what's the best and worst reaction you remember getting from an audience member during your Book of Mormon run?
Oh gosh. So best was obviously is just like applause, laughter, and, you know, can you sign this? That's all. That's, you know, that's always incredible. Like it's a weird one for an ensemble member, especially an ensemble member who understudies, because even when you understudy, sometimes people will just sort of flick through the program and see that the person who plays the role, even if they're not in the building, they'll see their name and they'll see their they'll see their name and see their headshot and go, cool, so that must be the general, which is, I get that. But sometimes the worst, when I wasn't even understudying the general and I came to stage door and somebody said to me, oh, Chris Jarman, you were so good. And I was like, so I was like, he's I think maybe a foot taller than I am, or maybe half a foot taller than I am. We just look very, very different. And so I was like, I don't really know how to engage with this, because I'm now going to say, I'm not Chris Jarman, and you're now going to say, oh, this is, and it gets very awkward. So I would say, yeah, that was probably the worst stage door, but the best is always, you know, just people being pleasant and being nice and being respectful, you know, that, yeah.
I like everybody. I'm the one that gets to clean it and everybody to sign it. I don't care who you are. If your name's in the programme, sign the programme, please. Because you helped it.
Well, exactly, yeah.
It was actually with Come On when that it was the musical director come out, or the conductor, or whatever the name is. I'm terrible with names. But he came out and I knew who he was because my friend had met him before. And she said, oh, that's it. And so I asked him to sign the programme, and he went, but I'm not in the cast. I went, no, but you're the musical director. I says, you're just as important. Can even the cleaners just as anyone that helps put the show on in any way is just as important.
It's so refreshing to hear you say that, because so often it is that, you know, people, in fact, I've had at stage door, are you in the cast? And that's not fun for anybody, like, because the what then proceeds is, you know, I say, are you in the cast? And then the person in the show goes, no, and then that person goes on to the next person, and that doesn't leave anybody feeling good. But you are so correct, and it's so refreshing to hear you say that, because there are people who do and who have said, you know, can you sign this? And everybody does go, because, you know, most people do just want the cast to sign things. They go, oh, you know, I work backstage, or why are you asking me, etc. It happened to Rose at Kinky Boots. Somebody asked her to sign the program, and she was like, I don't think I'm not part of the onstage, you know, performers. And they're like, no, we know you're the head of wardrobe, and we would like you to sign the program. And it's a really lovely thing. So thank you for doing
definitely,
that.
100%, definitely.
Yeah.
Unless I don't know them, that's obviously different, because it's hard to picture. Obviously, it's easier to recognise cast members because you see them on the stage. So it's hard to always recognise people.
Of course,
that work backstage to be able to go, can you sign this?
Yes.
All the time. That's the problem. When they're not cast, or if they're swing, because swings obviously they're fantastic, and I think swings, obviously you've been a swing and not Become sorry.
Avenue Q.
Thank you. Can you get the name right there? like the other controversial musical you've been in, Avenue Q. Obviously you were swinging that, and swings are fantastic. They're the gods of musicals, definitely. But they kind of have, especially if they've not been on, I'll still want them to sign the programme if I'm there. And if they're there, obviously sometimes swings can escape before stage door happens.
Yeah.
I know that, but if they do come out, I still like it. But if you don't know them, then it's hard to kind of, if they've not been on stage, it's kind of like, unless they've got a photo, then obviously that's different. I try and look at all the photos. Sit there.
It's a oh god, this is like a slight step away from what we're talking about, but I promise it will be quick. And it's just the acknowledgement, though, that there are people who are not on stage who do make all of this happen. And I remember saying, I think in a radio interview once, that like, we as performers, when we're on stage and we take our final bow, I'm so grateful for it, and we do obviously as performers work really hard, but the amount of people backstage that we are accepting that applause for, they don't get that applause because, you know, obviously they're not there and they don't have that direct connection to the audience. So it is like, for me anyway, it's really refreshing for me to hear that people do take the time to learn who is working backstage, especially on a show that they might have seen, you know, more than once, to go, oh my God, you know, so on Kinky Boots, I had so many quick changes, and my dressers, Hannah, Kathy, and Nikki, were just incredible. Like every time I come off stage, and the wig girls, you know, Chloe, Charlotte, Megan, Becky, they all made such magic happen so quickly, that I was like, you know, I'd go off stage and literally sit there and be like this while somebody does, you know, all the things, and somebody puts a shoe on me, and etc. But then they come back on stage looking absolutely fabulous, and it was thanks to the efforts that they put in. So that's why for me it's really refreshing to hear that you took the time to find out who that person, you know, who the MD was. That's really lovely. So thank you.
Definitely. No, you're welcome. No, definitely. Because as I say, as much as as you said, the cast that get the applause, and it's the cast that everybody knows. The ones I hate, and I'm not talking about the performers because it's not their fault. It's the people that go to the stage door just for the one person. That's what I'm like, and then they don't come out because it's maybe a matinee, or it's like I don't go to stage or whatever and expect anyone to come out, because that's not part of your job. And I drum that into people as soon as I arrive at stage door. It's not part of the guys, as in the people in the cast. It's job to do stage door. If they come out and they say no, I'm going straight home, I'm tired, accept it. But they don't. The people. Certain musicals, Joseph being one of them, going for the cast, not the cast. I'm not getting the cast in slights here. but the people that go just for Jason Donovan or just go for Sheridan Smith or like Book of Mormon, thankfully doesn't have that so much because you don't have the massive name like Jason Donovan or that would have the following. You're all fantastic. I'm not getting it, you guys in the slightest, but you don't have a massive name. Like
it's like it's celebrity casting, right?
Yeah,
so when people come along, which is why, like, so I can understand it to an extent. Like, I understand that the person who you've probably come to see the show is that big name, you know, who's in the show. So you've come maybe with the mentality that I'm going to see somebody whose career I followed, who I have, you know, I love and I respect that person. But again, yes, there is just a level of acknowledgement that I will always be grateful for when it comes to mounting, you know, a beast that is a musical theatre show, because it is a beast, and it is it's worked on from so many different angles. Like, you know, to name a few departments, you've got costumes, you've got wigs, you've got lighting, you've got automation, you've got sound, you've got LX, you've got, you know, there's so many people to thank. But again, I can understand if somebody has come to see one person, and this is their opportunity to see that person, they might not have a reverence or a love for musical theatre in the same way that people who understand it and enjoy it, and you know what I mean. Yeah. So I guess it's that thing of, like, you know, maybe taking something for granted, but again, you know, the musical has been the vehicle by which you have been able to meet this person. Anyway, it's a whole thing. There are so many prongs to it.
It definitely is. But moving on from that, only got a couple more questions from fans, and they are all about the last show that we haven't spoken much about. We go from one controversial musical to another one, not so controversial, but still in its own way slightly controversial, but in a very much in a I was going to say kid friendly, but it's not kid friendly. That's not the right word, but more of a kid feel. Yes, I think it's the way to look at it. Because obviously Avenue Q, the one story about this, and I'll tell you very quickly, is my auntie. Came to Glasgow, not the year you were in, but this was years and years ago, one of the first tours I ever did in the UK. I'm going to see my cousins. It's a musical with puppets. I'm like, oh, what are you going to see? Thinking it was some kids thing that was kind of, it's Avenue Q or Street Q. I'm like, no, don't you dare. But it's got puppets in it. I went, that doesn't matter. Like, yes, it has puppets in it. It has puppets, yes. Yeah. The characters are mostly all puppets, but it's not a musical for kids. And I just told her one of them, the one about the internet, the song about the internet, and she went, oh, I can see why then. I went, yeah, do your research before you take them. At this point, they were 5 and 8, so they were kids. They were kids. Yeah. They were not kids for Avenue Q. That's different.
No. My cousin. So I did the show in 2011 and 2012, and yeah, my cousin came to watch the show, and I wasn't on. So I wasn't on as Gary Coleman, and I wasn't swinging in the I wasn't on from any of the ensemble tracks. And my cousin came to watch the show, and my cousin at the time, oh gosh, 2011, it's 2020 now. She must have been about 13 or something. And I remember thinking, okay, well, at least she's a teen, but still, yeah, still the themes in the show. Yeah, I'd say well, by today's standards of censorship and etc., I'd say it's like teen plus. But yeah, at the time I was like, oh my god, what has she watched? But yeah, my mum, being really strict Catholic, she came and saw the show when we were in, where were we? We were in Southend-on-Sea, I think, and she, after the show, because my mum hadn't seen the show, and like I'd invited her to see the show, but also told her what the show was like. So she put off seeing it for a while. And then I was like, we're in Southend, please come down. And she watched. And after the show, she said, thank you, Yokai, for giving me such an interesting experience. And I was like, the diplomat, my mum is like mega diplomatic. But I was like, what she's just said is, it happened.
Yeah. I'm not saying I enjoyed it, but I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it in the same respect. I'm not giving you anything really.
Correct. Yeah.
Being a typical woman, really.
Say again?
Being a typical woman, really. Not giving you. You don't need to answer that. I'm gay, so I get away with that. All women love me. You wait till you see the comments on the YouTube page now.
I can't wait.
Didn't mean that in any sexist way whatsoever. I didn't. That was just a joke. So the questions, really. Well, back to the questions.
Mm-hmm.
John says, was Gary Coleman hard to learn? So obviously, as a puppet, I mean, not the character. I think he means more the puppet.
Gary Coleman was not a puppet in the version of it.
No, Gary Coleman wasn't a puppet. Ignore me. You didn't mean puppet. That was me. Sorry, ignore me.
No. The role of Gary Coleman, was it hard to learn? No, I would say he wasn't hard to learn, or like any harder to learn than any other character that I've played. There was a lot to get used to with Avenue Q, because as a human character doing a human track, you look at the puppets, you don't look at the people on stage. And so that was weird, because, you know, I'm looking at a person. Okay, well, I'm not meant to look at the person, I'm meant to look at their puppet. And all of a sudden, this becomes the relationship on stage with your fellow actors, which is it's so weird to get used to. I'd say that's probably the most difficult thing. Also, like, he was the handyman, so having that craftsman's belt, with all of my, you know, with a hammer and all the rest of it, etc. on there. I don't walk around the streets like that. The most I do is when I go for a run, I've got a bum bag. Yeah, I would say no more difficult than any other character, to be fair.
That's fair enough. Sorry for me not understanding it.
No
I don't know
worries.
where that came from. I'm like, I knew in my head that Gary Coleman wasn't a puppet. I'm like, why am I saying this?
I think, and people will correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think Gary Coleman was intended to be a puppet. I think maybe at some point during workshops, like, at the show's inception, but it never he never made it out of workshops as a puppet, I don't think.
Oh well, there we go. No, don't. I apologise. Anyway, Megan says you were swing, which is a fantastic part to take on in any musical, because you've got to learn more than one. You don't, like, cast have job, but they learn the one and that's it. Understudies learn maybe one or two. Swings learn almost everything, don't they? Mm-hmm. So how many roles were you able to step into a swing on Avenue Q?
So, oh gosh, I can't, because it was such a long time ago. I think I had two. I think there were two male ensemble tracks that I had to know. I think I'm just trying to remember the cast. Yeah, two ensemble tracks, two puppet tracks to learn. Maybe three. Two. There were two. Okay, wow. There were two tracks that I had to learn, and then obviously Gary Coleman. But I was also a swing for stage management. So I was ASM swing as well as ensemble swing, as well as first cover Gary Coleman on the job. What was remind me of the question?
So how many roles could you have stepped into?
Oh yeah, so yeah, I would have only been able to step into three, and then with the stage management track, I think I had three tracks on that as well. So I had to know 6 tracks for the show, if that makes sense.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's nothing compared to, like, friends of mine who've worked on 42nd Street, for example. Just the ensemble tracks on that alone, they've had to, know 13 tracks or God knows what. On Mormon as well, being a swing on that, there's so much to learn. I think in terms of my swinging experience, I was lucky to only have to learn as many as I did on Avenue Q, because even the swings on our show, like, there was so much choreography that was on our show on Kinky Boots. I just looked at a picture of Kinky Boots. I was like, our show, he'll know what I mean. The swings on Kinky Boots, even because everything, like, in the factory, the routines are the same, but they're like maybe 2 numbers, to the left or 2 numbers to the right, depending on what track they're doing. It was such it was such a minefield, however, on Avenue Q, because you had certain puppets that were needed for certain moments, as in the ensemble, they were by and large quite different. And so it was easy to different, like, okay, I'm on for Nick Duncan's track, so that means I go to this window with Rod, I do that in the window, and then I close the window during the internet perform. And if I'm on for another one, then I'm like, I've got Nicky Trekkie in the door, and I open the door, chuck Nicky Trekkie out, and then pull him back through. But they were so different. And probably one of the most rewarding experiences I've had in theatre was to cover so many roles. So in terms of like the ASM swing role as well, being able to cover the ASMs if they needed to, have a swing day off, etc. I got to learn so much about what happens backstage, as well as obviously, then doing some of the ensemble, doing all of the ensemble work. So yeah, it was a massive learning curve, but a really rewarding one to get a full, like, holistic understanding of theatre. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, definitely. Definitely. So Joanne asks, you have worked, you've just explained there, worked with puppets, although Gary Coleman wasn't a puppet, Graham. You have worked with the puppets. Is working with puppets easier than working with other cast members? Joanne asks. Not naming anyone in particular. We're not naming anyone in particular.
So by that, do you mean like using the puppets, or does she? No. Okay. Cool.
The question, you can assume the question however you want. You can answer it however you want. We don't assume.
I would say because, like, theoretically, because this situation never arose on Avenue Q. On Avenue Q, we were such a family. I did the tour for I'd say 2 years, but it was the first contract was maybe a 7-month contract, and then the second contract we didn't do July through till December, but then we started up again in January and went through to the following July. So they're both 7-month contracts, and throughout that time, I never had like such a big falling out, and I don't think anybody really did on the tour, that it would become so difficult to work with somebody. But I would imagine if, say, like let's take Kinky Boots for instance. If I had an argument with Joel and we had to sing Not My Father's Son together, and I had to look him in the eye in such an emotionally vulnerable place, it could become quite difficult. However, if Joel was here and the puppet was there and I was just looking at the puppet, there's a relationship that I can establish with the puppet and the puppet as a character that then might be easier to deal with. So that's, again, in theory, because it was never the reality of the show. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
That answers it, yes. Whether it was how Joanne asked it, I don't know, but we never assume. I literally ask the words that they give me, and you can take the question however you want. Perfect. So the last question from fans, it comes from Barry, and he asks, what's your favourite song in Avenue Q?
Oh, okay, so okay, so I'd say there are two for me, and one is If You Were Gay, which I never ever got to perform, but like the Nicky Trekkie track was one that I coveted so much, and that song is brilliant. But so songs that I got to sing, I would say Loud as the Hell You Want, like such a good, again, funky, kick-ass, sexy number. Excuse me for saying that. But yeah, that song for me. Man, I would go back on stage now. I mean, I'd go back on stage now and do pretty much anything. Please bring theatre back. But I would love to do that song right now. I won't. I'll save you your ears.
I was about to say, you're more than welcome. We would never ask you to bust into song, but if you want to, then feel free. We're not going to stop you.
Maybe when I'm back. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, we would never ask you. We'd never put you on the spot, but we'd never stop you either if you started it. So that's us at the end. You can relax slightly. We've finished the fans' questions. Slightly.
Amazing.
We do have still got the pain of the not so quick fire round.
Mm-hmm.
We name it this because we did name it quick fire round, but nobody decided to answer it quickly, so we changed the name. So the first question in this section, we asked the same questions to everybody. So what would your dream role be, regardless of age or race? What would your dream role?
Oh, that's tough. Oh my God, that's tough. I can see why it's a not so quick fire round. Of the roles that I've mentioned today, Cunningham. I would say Cunningham. Like he would be. It's so much fun to play. Well, I mean, again, not that I've played it, but I imagine it would be so much fun. So much fun to be had.
Tom Zander just makes it look brilliant. That's the one I remember. I remember him playing Cunningham in the West End, obviously, and he's and Jacob Yardley does it in the tour. They're fantastic. Two great comedians.
I never got to see. Oh, sorry, go on. I was going to say I never got to see either of those. But we had Jared in the first year, and he blew my mind. It was just so beautifully like understated and direct and just honest. I love Jared. I absolutely love the man.
Definitely some of the two, the Elder Price and Cunningham, are just fantastic. That whole show fantastic.
Amazing.
What would your dream gender bend role be? So that would be a role that's traditionally female, not like Lola or that, not a cross-dressing role.
Oh my God. Celie. I would say Celie.
Oh, that's a good one. A bit different. Yes, I like that. Probably the hardest question of the day. What is your favourite musical theatre song? You don't have to have sung it. It doesn't have to be one you've sung.
So what? Like again, I'm just gonna go back and say I can see why this is not the quick fire round. Oh, that's so much to consider in like no time at all. It's tough. My favorite song in musical theatre, actually, this musical, I think I only did like a one-act version of it, right? Hercules, and I love all of the music in Hercules, but if I got to sing "Go the Distance," like that would be a dream come true for me. I love that song. It's so like just so full of hope, and it's beautiful. That or Awaiting You from Myths and Hymns, Adam Gattell, which every tenor sings, but it's a great song. There's a reason why. Yeah.
No, that's a good one. I love Hercules, one of my favourite Disney movies.
Yeah.
By far. That and Mulan. I couldn't get in there. My mind went completely blank there.
Yeah.
That's just coming out in live action. Well, it was supposed to be the end of this year, but doesn't look like that'll happen now. The last question we've got is, what is your top 5 shows? Not in order, you don't have to put them in any order, just 5 shows that you would put in your top, and you don't have to have been in them.
Okay.
Can't have been in them.
Well, I would say my CV. No, I'm kidding. I would say I'm
waiting for the day for somebody to say that, I've got to say.
Could you imagine?
Just go on my CV.
just look through my CV. It's all there, all my preferences. I would say Parade is gosh. Obviously, Book of Mormon. We didn't get to, obviously when we opened it, I'd never seen it, and halfway through the first year we were told that we needed to watch it because we needed to know what we were in, and I watched it and I was just like, oh my god, I had no idea. Blew me away. So that's Book of Mormon, Parade, Beetlejuice. Now I've not seen that, but the soundtrack, I'm like, please just get me in. I really want to do this job. What else?
It's coming over, so maybe you'll get the chance to audition.
Oh my god, fingers crossed.
Well, sorry, it's rumoured to be coming across.
Rumoured to be.
It's rumoured. It's not been confirmed.
I would just love it. It's so, I've never, like, the combination of musical theater and like heavy metal in that like second number, I was just like, oh my gosh, it's like it's everything I want a musical to be. Moving on. Oh gosh. Oh my gosh, I've drawn a blank. What do I listen to?
There are thousands of musicals out there, okay?
There are so many,
Thousands.
so many. And I'm trying to think of the ones that I like. Oh, Once on This Island, the Broadway revival needs to come over here. I love that musical. And what's the musical with Till We Reach That Day?
No, terrible.
Oh, is it Ragtime? I think it's Ragtime.
Oh, yes, it is. It's Ragtime.
Yes, yeah,
Ragtime, yes, still, yeah.
yeah. Oh God, yeah, there are so many. There are so many. But let's. I think that we'll say those are my top five, and that'll change tomorrow. Yeah.
You've named 5. That's all we ask. They'll change in the next 10 minutes. You'll come off the call and go, oh, I should say this, this, and this. That plenty of people have done that.
Yeah, I'll send you a message and be like, oh, and this, oh, and this, oh, and this, and this, and this, and this.
Yeah, loads of people do that. Like, you'll not be the first, and I guarantee you'll not be the last to do that. So the last thing tonight is, have you heard of the Ice Bucket Challenge? I
have.
You have, right? We're not going to ask you to do it. Don't worry. I just like getting people's reaction for that, especially off the cuff. No, basically all we mentioned that for is you had to do it and then nominate somebody to do the next one. So we've come up with the West End Talks nomination. And in this, we ask you to nominate somebody. It can be anyone from film, TV, or theatre, either of the genres. Preferably somebody you know, because the task is to try and get them in to do a talk. It can be anybody from off-screen or like off-screen, on-screen, on-stage, off-stage. It doesn't have to be an actor is what we're getting at. It can be anyone. To go through the pain that you've just went through, basically. And it can be more than one. If you think of more than one, it can be more than one.
I would say, I'm trying to think of who fits in all of those categories you just mentioned. We
haven't had anybody from costume yet.
Oh, have you not?
No.
Ooh. I mean, I would say Karen, but I don't think she'd get through this without uttering an expletive. Or from costume, from back.
You don't have to now. I was just naming because you had mentioned a lot of costume girls. That was all. You don't have to. You can come wherever you want.
So I would say, if you've not had Alexia Kadim on, Alexia Kadim is great. She is an inspiration and a friend, which is something I'm very lucky to say. And also Piers Bate, who was the understudy for Dr. Pomatter in Waitress. Yes. And he's an incredible friend and a fantastic performer. Those are and obviously Emily Olive Boyd, who was recently on the We Will Rock You tour. She is currently quarantined in Northern Ireland and living her best life. So yeah, get her on as well.
Fantastic. So what we need to do then is once you finished the talk today, go onto Twitter, pop up a tweet just to say, just on my talk, West End Talks, and then tag these guys. Obviously tag us in it as well so that we can get access to them, and tag them in it and we'll try and get them in.
Amazing.
That's the challenge. But that's us. You can relax. You have made it to the end. Yes. All that's left for you guys at home to remember is the charity. We're not just here for fun, although I'd like to hope you had fun. We're not just here for fun. We are here to try and raise very much needed funds for Acting for Others. Obviously, they are a charity that help the theatre, the acting community, full stop. That's why we've now branched into TV and film, because they do help the full acting community, but more so the theatre, and more so at the moment, obviously, with the theatre's been in darkness. So please, anything at all you can spare. We do steal Tesco's saying here, every little helps. Anything at all, you can pop in the link below. Do that, please. They'll be entirely grateful. They do help all year round, not just at the moment, but they are more needing at the moment than ever before. But join us next time, when we will have Steve Howlett, who's a ventriloquist, so something slightly similar to you, but he's more of a ventriloquist rather than a musical theatre person. but you'll know him from being on Britain's Got Talent a couple of years ago. So joining us anyone, we'll have him. But thank you very much, Kayi. It's been fantastic talking to you and getting to know you.
It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. And guys, take care. Bye now.
Every hero needs a sidekick.